And so this becomes an inquiry, just to bring inquiry back into the conversation, that I often suggest that in, and again, I'm thinking primary classrooms here, but in our primary classrooms, we should basically see this as a year-long inquiry. So regardless of what we are inquiring into, we are always inquiring into how we learn and how we're getting better at learning. So we have a question up on the wall that might be something like, how are we growing as learners? Or what are we learning about learning? And so rather than, I suppose you could do both, but I'm going to say that rather than simply starting the year with we're going to do a learning to learn unit, and then we've done that, and now we're off with the rest of the year. Actually, sure, we might spark this inquiry with our first inquiry, which I quite love. Let's really dig into who are we as learners? What do we know about learning? How do we see ourselves as learners, et cetera, et cetera? Let's talk to people about their learning experiences. There's a bunch you can do. And then we say, so that inquiry that we've just targeted, we're going to keep doing that. That stays open. That door is open all year. And as we inquire into everything else, we have this deliberate moment where we press the pause button through those inquiries to say, now let's come back to this question. What else are we learning about learning while we've been investigating our local ecosystems, or while we've been investigating how to care for ourselves, or whatever questions we're looking at through the year? That question is a year-long focus, and that question, and we might play with it as we move through the school. We might have simply, who are we as learners, but we might have a different question when we move into year 2, and it might be a little more about, how are we different as learners to each other, and then we might have, how can we get better at learning in a different, so we wouldn't have the same thing. We play with it and make it fresh and interesting as we move through. But this idea, if we can carry in our heads as teachers that all this work that we're talking about in terms of growing our capacity as learners, this central purpose of schooling, I see that in itself as something to inquire into.
So
we bring we bring curiosity. We want the children to be intrigued about learning. So rather than, now we are going to learn about being curious, or in this lesson, it's like, isn't this interesting? Now, what are we not? I wonder what else we could find out about collaboration. So I always pose it as a question. So I might say, either in one lesson, if I'm split screening, it'll be, so today, obviously we're collaborating here. So, as collaborators, let's see what we can figure out about how you can make sure everybody's involved in the conversation. And then we can start with, what do you already think you might know about that? So you have to take turns, and you have to do this. Okay, so let's remember what we already know. But as we get into this task today, let's see if we can uncover something else. What else could we add to our list about how you can make sure everybody in the group gets a turn? So we position the children as investigators into learning while they're investigating whatever else they're investigating. And that it's these little tweaks to our language that shift it from being, because I've seen this work done in very didactic, non-inquiry based ways, where it's like, now I'm going to tell you, right, today, everyone, we are being collaborators, and I'm looking for people taking turns, eye contact. Like, no, I'm not a fan of all of that. It's like, what might we all look for in ourselves and each other? And what might we discover? What else did you notice as you were collaborating? And that work happens not just in the reflection, that happens during the lesson, where we're posing questions as we sidle up alongside groups. and sit down and we say, look, looks like you're doing a terrific job here. Just what are you all noticing about, remember we're trying to figure out how we can make sure everybody feels included. Have you had some moments where you feel you're really noticing what you're doing for that, or is it happening? I wonder why it might not be happening. So we bring children into this space where we're learning itself is something to be curious about.